Hello, everyone, and welcome to the iSpring Solutions webinar series, where every week we talk about e-learning trends, share iSpring tips and tricks, and cover clients' cases. My name is Paulina. I'm the community manager at iSpring, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar, where we will be talking about fantastic quizzes and how to build them. And as a presenter, I have invited my colleague from Technical Support Department, Paul Bender. Hi, Paul. How are you doing today?
Hi, Paulina. Doing well. How is it going for you?
It's going pretty well. I'm super excited for this webinar, and hopefully by the end of this webinar, you guys will see how easy it is to get started creating fantastic quizzes in iSpring Quiz Maker. And I have great news for everyone who will not be able to sit through the whole session. This webinar is being recorded, so guys, no worries, you will receive a link to a replay sometime after the webinar. However, I would like to encourage you to stay till the very end because it's a great opportunity to address your questions directly to our presenter. And to do so, please submit them in the question box, which you will find on the right side of the GoToWebinar panel. And at this moment, I think we are ready to begin. So Paul, let me pass the mic over to you.
Thanks, Paulina. Okay, I'm going to show my screen and we'll get started. So what up, everyone? How are you doing? Today we're going to be talking about a tool by iSpring called iSpring Quiz Maker. And we'll learn how to build beautiful quizzes filled with graphics and other types of content on the go. And we'll learn how to share those quizzes with your colleagues and maybe friends. Let's start off by taking a look at two examples of quizzes built with iSpring Quiz Maker. I'll show you the two different distinct types and explain what the difference is. So the first type is quizzes with this quiz is about New Orleans, and it's a quiz with customized feedback. Feedback is the message that appears in the bottom. You can see that I'm seeing the correct response as soon as I'm picking the response for this question. So that's the type of quiz you want in your learning module, just as a tool to help learners memorize what they just learned. And the second type of quiz is, here I got my other American cities quiz, which is about Las Vegas. And this one doesn't give us feedback. It doesn't show a correct response. It's just letting me pick my responses, and then at the end, when I submit all of them, I will see the results. So it's the type of quiz you use for evaluation and checking how well learners know their stuff and how well they worked on the theory in your courses. The type of content that creates those quizzes, to be exact, those are HTML5. So they can be played in browsers on PC, Linux, iOS, on smartphones like Android, iOS, then on Mac, of course. So this kind of content, you can upload it to a server, you can upload it to a learning management system, have it on a website, or play locally. You can even use a special tool we got to create an exe version of each quiz and run them locally on your computers. If you're interested in learning more about how to do an exe file out of a quiz, the link will be in the chat. Polina's going to send it to you. And we will move on. Now that we saw what iSpring Quiz Maker can produce, let's start to learn how to work with the tool. First, we're going to need to start it. And to start the tool, we'll open the iSpring Suite shortcut from my desktop. And iSpring Suite, it's our kind of bigger e-learning tool that we have. It features Quiz Maker along other tools that are included in that package. And iSpring Suite is based off PowerPoint, so you install it on your computer, then you can turn your presentations into e-learning courses with quizzes, interactions, videos, and etc. But we're gonna pick the quizzes option and click on create a quiz to create a new blank quiz. The quiz I'll be making today is gonna be about handling conflicts and how to handle conflicts and what you need to know about that topic. So everything you will see in that quiz will follow that theme. I'm gonna add my first question, and you do that by clicking on that question button in the top left corner. By clicking on it, you will get a menu which displays all of the types of questions that are available in the tool. Starting from the simple ones like true, false, multiple response, multiple choice, to slightly more sophisticated ones like sequence, matching, fill in the blanks, hotspot, even drag and drop, where you can use your own graphics and determine what to drag where. That will be the one we will be talking on the next webinar, which I'm going to announce a little bit later. So let's start simple. Let's pick the multiple response question type. Now that's how it looks. I prepared a document before this session, and in that document, I've entered my questions, my answers, and some other stuff like feedback messages. As a rule of thumb, I recommend doing that because it's so much easier when you have all your quiz questions outlined in the document, and then you start to create them in Quizmaker using that document. It would save you a lot of time. Also, if you're okay with using Excel, iSpring Quizmaker can import questions from Excel, and Paulina is going to send a link in the chat to those of you who want to learn more about this. So I'm going to be copying my question text from my documents, and the first question will be, it will sound like this. Active listening is one of the techniques that helps people solve conflicts. What does it mean to listen actively? Now I'm going to go back to the file and copy the answers. You can see that I marked some of the answers with an X. So those are just the correct ones. I could have typed that in real time, but I think it's quicker to just copy and paste. So now I need to mark the same answers correct. And I'm gonna do it just so. So now we got our question text, we got our answers. We can now preview the results. Here is how our question will look right now without any additional tweaks. So it has the answers that are inputs. I can give a wrong response and it will show me feedback. It will show me those correct responses. Let's add a little bit of graphics into it, like an image, and maybe work on the formatting to make it look more appealing to learners. So to add a picture, I'm going to click here and use one of the images that I downloaded before the webinar from the web. Those are not from like a content library or anything, just images that I found on Google. And since we now have an image, we can start composing our question in slide view. Slide view is a separate mode in Quizmaker, and it's kind of like PowerPoint. You can move objects around, you can grab an object like your answers and move them on the slide. First thing I'm gonna do is change the layout. I'm gonna pick the balance number 3 layout and maybe move the question text below the picture, then resize the image like this. Maybe also crop the image by using the picture tools. Like that, so that it would fit the slide better. And I will also customize the font. After I customize the fonts for both the question text and the answers, well, I can preview it now, but let's take a look at something called feedback. You already saw that in the examples that I showed to you in the beginning of the webinar. Feedback is the message that appears when you give a correct or an incorrect response. And if you look at the bottom right side of the interface here, you will see there's 3 layers on the slide. There's the actual slide, and above that, there's correct and incorrect feedback. When I click on those, I'm able to see the responses, the feedback messages that I get when I give certain response. So now I'm going to customize that. And for that, I have a special part in my document. I'm just going to copy and paste that into the feedback box. And basically it says that there are 3 basic rules to active listening. You need to pay attention, you need to show the speaker that you're listening, and you need to provide them feedback. The 4th response, the wrong one, arguing, is not the correct one, so it's explained here. I've also added this text that you need to watch the video because I'm going to add a video into this feedback box. And I will do so by going to the Insert tab and clicking on Video and picking this video clip that I downloaded off the web. So the video clip is a scene from the 90s show that is called Everybody Loves Raymond. And it demonstrates how a father resolves a conflict between his wife and his young daughter, Ellie, using the active listening technique. Actually, it's kind of hilarious, so I thought that it would be a good fit. And I think I'm going to use the same video for incorrect feedback because this feedback message it actually fits both the correct and incorrect response. So here's my video. Now I'm just going to copy and paste that into the incorrect feedback box using Control plus C, just like this. And let's preview the results. Okay, now this question is looking much better than it was at the beginning. Let's give the correct response. Here's our feedback window for the correct answer, and I can watch my video, even make it full screen if I want. By the way, since HTML5 is compatible with personal computers, with Macs, with mobile devices, you can pick what device you want to preview your quiz on using one of those 5 options here on top of this preview window. And those 2 are for tablets, like iPad or Galaxy, and those 2 are for smartphones. So let's try to preview the same question in smartphone view, how it would look in portrait mode on a smartphone. You can see that I have the same question, the same image, and I actually can see the same feedback message and even watch the video. So I think video really helps here because it's just another way of making the learner stay on this question a little bit more and kind of digest what they just learned. So I'm using this quiz as a learning tool more than an evaluation tool. Okay, now before moving on to creating a new question, we will also save the theme of this quiz. I don't want to reuse the fonts, keep changing the fonts for every slide that I'm creating. So I'm gonna go to design, click on themes, and click on save custom theme. And I'm gonna call it conflict quiz. Now, after I save the theme, I can click on themes again and click on the theme I just saved. and nothing really happens on the screen, but any new questions that we'll be creating will have the same backgrounds and the same fonts for both the question and the answers as the one that I'm looking at right now. So that saves time. Now, we looked at something simple like the multiple response question. Let's move on to something more difficult, like one of the questions with dragging stuff, and that will be the drag the words type, this one. And guys, I see you are answering questions. Sorry, I see you asking questions in the chat. We will get back to you at the end of the webinar when we will have a Q&A session. So thank you for your patience. And moving on, that's our drag the words question. And the whole idea here, I'm gonna show you how that looks. Actually, let me go back and preview just this selected question. So the whole idea here is to have a sentence, and some of the words in that sentence might be blank. So you have to drag those words from those boxes on the bottom. You have to put them into the blanks, and then you get feedback. And I saw someone was asking about individual feedback for all questions. That's exactly what's going on right now. I've changed the feedback for the first question, but feedback for the second one stayed as the default one. So I will need to customize it separately if I want to. Let's go back and customize this question too. Obviously, I don't want that text, and I'm gonna go further in my documents and find the second part, which is for the second question. The second question will be about composing a correct sentence, and that will do for the description. Compose the correct sentence by dragging the words to blank spaces. And the second part will be our actual sentence. Okay, so that sentence, it doesn't have any blanks right now, but I'm gonna do this. I will select my word, the first word, which will become a blank clash, and click on insert, and then do the same with interest. And let's preview that. So now I have my own sentence and my own words for those blanks. I also want to maybe trick the learners a little bit and provide them with more options so that it wasn't so easy to answer that question. So I'm going to enter a few additional words that will not be the correct response. And the first one will be way, and the second one will be living. So indeed, someone might think that the correct response is not a conflict is a clash of interests, but it's a way of living. And you probably know some people that do live by that rule. But let's not talk about them. Let's move on with importing an image. I think I'll use this one and go to slide view again to customize the look of it. I'm going to use the layout that you already know. Place those boxes on the bottom. Have them like this. Then I'm going to move my question and the answer. And again, resize the image like that. It looks nice. If we go forward and preview that on a smartphone screen, here's what you will see. The interface is a little bit different. So here we're not dragging the words, but we are clicking on a list and selecting from the list instead. Still gives you feedback, still shows you the correct responses. Okay, now that we created those two questions, let's talk about some of the more advanced things that Quizmaker can do, like randomizing the question list. So you do not always want students to see the same exact question pool every time someone launches your quiz. You want to be able to randomize um, the question list by maybe selecting only 10 of 100 questions to show up randomly. Or maybe you'd like to randomize the order in which questions are displayed. So that's iSpring Quizmaker has so many different options, but the simplest way of doing so would be to go to our question group, which includes 2 questions right now, and look at the options section on the right. We need um, this radio button, which is select random questions. When I enable that, now the question order in this quiz will always be random. So in 50% of the time, the first question will come up first when someone launches the quiz, and 50% of the time, the second one will come up first, and then the first one. Now, when we want to show only a portion of all the questions in our quiz, we can make a selection. And now 50% of the time, only the first question will be displayed, while the rest of the times, um, only the second one will be displayed. You can imagine that you can have like 500 questions in your quiz, and on a new publish, you can select a portion of 50 and publish it to a SCORM file, then upload it to your LMS, and anyone who takes this quiz will only see 50 questions picked randomly from that entire question pool. For now, let's disable the randomizing option because it doesn't do much when we only have 2 questions. And let's move on to the next part we'll talk about is how to switch between those 2 distinct types of quizzes, the one that is used for learning with feedback and all, and the one that is used for evaluating someone's knowledge. But before we do that, Paulina, can you launch the poll? Because we wanted to ask you how you are using quizzes if you already have something that you create them with. Do you use them to evaluate someone's learning abilities? Do you use them to let people train and like have as many attempts as they want to practice before the real challenge? Or do you want them to just have a nice little quiz along the module that they're taking to kind of memorize the stuff better? Maybe it's all of the above. So yeah, let's participate in the poll and then we'll continue.
So it looks like half of our attendees today use quizzes for all the provided types of training, learning, and practicing, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys, for participating. I will hide the results right now and pass the mic back to Paul.
thanks guys. It's nice to know that you are using quizzes not only for evaluation, because that's kind of the old approach to things. I think quizzes really help to retain learners' knowledge when used in a learning kind of way. Now let's go back to our form view, and what I wanted to show you is how to switch between the distinct different quiz types in QuizMaker. We need to go to Player and click on Navigation. So in this menu, this is where the thing happens. We have our submit one question at a time type, which is selected right now. And you can see that as soon as I give a response to one of the questions, I see the feedback, I see the correct answers. But if I switch that to submit all at once, what I'm gonna see is I can advance the questions on my own. And only when I'm ready, submit them all and give the final grade. Note that those 2 modes are customizable. For example, I do not have to reveal the correct answers in submit one question at a time. Like feedback is still showing, but I do not see the correct answers. And you can also allow to postpone the questions, like skip them in this mode, so they are customizable. Now, for the final adjustments, I'll go back and I will add an intro slide. So the intro slide will say, welcome to how to handle conflicts quiz. And I will also insert an image. I just need to click on the description box and then click on picture right here. I'm going to use that lovely guy that's shouting at his phone. Okay. Now that I have my quiz ready, even though it only has 2 questions, I can publish it. And what options do we have in terms of publishing the quiz? Let's go to the publish menu and find out. So in publishing, the first option we're seeing is my computer, and then that stands for pure HTML5 published to your local folder. That this HTML5 content you can then view in your browser. Let me just make it fit to the entire browser window so it was bigger on the screen. I can preview this format in my Google Chrome right away, or I can take this folder, upload it to my server, and then after uploading to my server, share a link to this quiz with someone. Now, if we don't have a server, some kind of a server like an internet one at our university or SharePoint company or something like that, we can use iSpring Cloud. It's another service that's iSpring has, and that's exactly what you would call like an online server for iSpring content. You can also call it Google Drive or Dropbox for iSpring content. And the way it works is you simply create your content, then you publish it to your iSpring Cloud. And after it's published, you get a short link that you can then immediately share with your colleagues, friends, or whatever. They just need to have an internet connection in order to be able to see that quiz. So it's being uploaded. There's a video in that quiz. So it takes more time than for a quiz with just images and text. Someone's asking if iSpring is compatible with Microsoft Edge. Yeah, it is. So all those two options, my computer and iSpring Cloud, are for those who do not have an LMS and do not track stats for their quizzes. I'm clicking on View Quiz. That's going to be the page with my quiz in my iSpring Cloud. It's online right now. If I click on share, I get the short link that I was talking about, and I can send this link to anyone in the world, and they will be able to see my quiz and take it. Now, what else we have? iSpring Learn. This is our LMS, the system that you can upload iSpring content to. It also understands SCORM packages made in other authoring tools. So it will take care of managing your learners for you. It will take care of hosting your content for you, and you'll be able to view results for any content item that you uploaded to the system and assign to learners. Those of you who are familiar with the concept, with the whole LMS thing, will probably not need a more detailed description. And also those of you who already have an LMS, not iSpring Learn, we do support SCORM 1.2 and 2004 X API and some of the older format like AICC and the more like newer one CMI5, which is actually more like a container for X API. But anyway, when you publish that, you will get a zip file, which will be a SCORM package, and that zip that zip file I can now upload to my LMS, Moodle, Blackboard, or Canvas, or Talent LMS, and that will show stats in the system when someone takes it. So that's another option. When we do not have any of the above, and we do not have a need to publish those quizzes on a computer, we can use the last option, which is publish your quizzes to a Word document. And there are two different modes in that option. One is for review. So you can publish your quiz, send it to someone for their review and approval. And the other mode is paper-based test. So if you want to do it the old way, you can generate how many copies you want with randomization and all that, um, hand them to your students and do a paper-based test. So that's an option too. Okay. Before we move on to the Q&A session, I would like to announce the next webinar we'll be doing in 2 weeks. And this one will be called Advanced Quiz Making, and that will just delve deeper into the depths of iSpring Quizmaker's abilities, and will show all kinds of hidden tricks that you can use with it. Before we move on to Q&A, last thing that I forgot to mention, if we do not have an LMS, but we still want to gather results for quizzes, iSpring Quizmaker has an option of sending you results to your email. And I actually send myself a copy of the results from that quiz. So it's pretty detailed. You can see the dates, the score, how much time I spent, the final results, and of course the actual answers that were given. The only drawback of this is that you will have one email for every result. So if you have like hundreds of students, that will not be efficient, and you will still need to think about getting an LMS. Okay, Paulina, I think that's all I wanted to talk about today, and we can move on to the Q&A session.